Thank you, Steve, so much. Well, thanks everybody for coming. And just so we can kind of get a feel for the room, I'd like to hear from you all. What interested you about strategic marketing? When you saw the advertisement in the chamber newsletter, what sort of piqued your interest about strategic marketing, and what do you want to get out of this today? So let's just quickly, take 3 or 4 and tell me about your interest in marketing and what you do with marketing. If someone doesn't speak up, I'll call on you. Go ahead.
I'm here as marketing manager for a chiropractic clinic.
Okay.
As soon as I seen it, I thought anything I can learn and hear about to bring in more business. Hopefully you don't have more patients in a chiropractic clinic, but when they need to, we need for them to know where to go.
Great.
So if I can learn anything at all through this, which I knew that I would, I had to be here.
Okay, so you want to learn how to market your chiropractic practice better.
Right.
Great. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm a sales manager for a commercial cleaning business, and I work kind of portions of 3 states, Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, down to River Valley, and Northeast Oklahoma. And I feel like I have somewhat of a marketing campaign, but because of the scale of my territory, I'm always open to new ideas and trying to develop and improve my efficiency, because I feel like I sometimes spin my wheels and I can't get enough actual results from the time that I spend doing it. So I just want to be more efficient and learn new ideas.
Okay, so greater efficiency in your marketing, and we're going to talk about the integration of sales and marketing a little bit today too. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking for ideas that are unusual to market.
Okay.
I actually work for a law firm. So you always look for something creative. We like a lot of one-on-one interaction to create interest and make friends and involve ourselves in the community, but just something different.
Okay. So a law firm, something different, more personal, maybe a personal touch, etc. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I've worked in the world of nonprofit for 10 years. I sort of like the profit side of it better, so I started my own business. Have no clue. I've been inundated with different marketing ideas, but not sure what direction to go, and just need some clarifications of what's good for a new business, and so I don't kill my business.
Okay. Well, that's a great thing. Keeping your business alive is what you want to do, right? That's what marketing is supposed to do. And the business world is awash in marketing ideas, right? There's no shortage of marketing guys. And some things work and some things don't. What I'm going to bring to you today is something that I call strategic marketing. And what I want you to get out of this is that marketing is something that you do every day. It's not a campaign here and there, although you might do campaigns, right, here and there. But marketing has to be a daily activity. It's part of the process of your business. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. And to get to that point, you can't just be doing anything. You've got to be strategic with what you do. And that doesn't mean that you don't test, but you don't flail around and try what I call flavor of the month marketing. So that's going to be the anti-marketing that we'll discuss a little bit today is the flavor of the month. So just a little bit of why should you even be here listening to me. I've worked in corporate marketing for many, many years with large banks. So I'm a recovering banker. Is anybody here a banker? You're recovering, right?
I'm recovering.
Recovering or recovered?
Recovered.
Recovered. That's good. So there's still hope.
Yeah.
So I'm recovering. But I'm also a small business owner. Nehemiah Worldwide is my 3rd business. And so we'll talk a little bit about from the corporate side as well as from the small business side. And we'll talk about what worked and how these principles that we're going to talk about apply in every scenario, no matter if it's a big business or a small business. So in your packet, you've got lots and lots of information. More than we're going to be able to cover today, but I wanted to give you a good reference material that you can that you can fall back on after the presentation. If you have questions later, just feel free to pick up the phone and ask me, because there's a lot in there. The stuff that's in here, even though it's a relatively short presentation, this stuff can take years to implement properly. So it's going to, to do this right, you're going to have to make up your minds to be very, very diligent. Hard work, right? So here's what you're going to get today. You're going to get something called, you're going to come out of this, because I'm going to make you work. This isn't just going to be me talking. It's going to be a lot of you working. You're going to come out of this with something called a brand promise. And we'll talk about that at length. And then you're going to have something called a touch points analysis. And that is, your brand promise has to come through in every aspect of your business. You can't be executing well on your brand promise in sales and not executing poorly in your delivery or your customer service. We're going to do an audit of underutilized assets. So you may have underutilized assets that you need to put in place to make you more efficient. And so you're going to go through your business and try to figure out what those are. Because underutilized assets are costing our businesses thousands, if not millions of dollars. And we'll do a case study on underutilized assets. Now, the thing that always raises people's eyebrows when I do a presentation like this, and I talk about leadership, and they say, well, leadership? What? This is marketing. Why are we talking about leadership? Well, isn't marketing part of a business function? Of course it is. Doesn't it have to be led? Of course it does. And we're going to talk about how in many organizations there's a failure at the very top to focus on marketing. So we're going to also create a roadmap for better referrals. Okay, which is really, really key. I'm a proponent of spending dollars on marketing, but not excessive dollars. And if we can build our businesses from referrals with very little money, then why not, right? And so we'll talk about another case study where we did that. So before we get too far along, though, in a room like this, there are always people that should know each other. And so I always think it's bad when the presenter just introduces himself or herself and nobody else gets to know who anybody else is. So why don't we start over here and tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, your business, and what you do.
Okay, I'm Kim Daniels, and I coordinate opportunities for the Bailey and Oliver Law Firm to be involved in the community and give back.
Okay.
Make it a better, safer place for all of us in our communities, and also coordinate the auction team, which we do for local charities. And I've mentioned this many times. I'd like to mention that we've raised $1 million so far in charity donations for Northwest Arkansas. We're so pleased that we can give that back. So I'm the community relations director, and I do events and coordinate into events.
Fantastic. Great, thank you.
I'm Kimberly Covington. I'm with the Community Clinic. I'm the development coordinator. We are a nonprofit. We serve the uninsured or underinsured in Northwest Arkansas. We've got 10 locations. We are accepting new patients, so I'm looking to market and get new patients in our doors, and then also corporate sponsorships for some of our events.
Okay. Back here.
My name is Allison Wolf. I work with ER Assist. We do many, many things, but the most recent...
Who did you say you work for?
ER Assist.
Okay.
The most recent project I've worked on is helping municipalities get reimbursed from funds that they spent during a disaster, state or federal.
Okay.
Grant writing.
Great.
Ronald Tula, ER Assist, and I work more in the software side, so we do TurboTax for the grant management.
Okay.
I'm Rosangela Chris, and right now I apply for a beginning farmer, and so I try to get in the conservation program in Benton County,
Okay.
and be low-lying Angles. And another business that I'm thinking about it's teaching grammar, Spanish, English, Portuguese.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So right now I just work at home and don't make money.
Okay. My son Andrew is in the corner back here, assisting with snacks, etc. Yes, sir.
Roger Cook with Vanguard Cleaning, sales manager, and pretty much run the territory.
Okay. Great.
Heather Slinkard, I'm with Juice Plus. If you don't get the fruits and vegetables that you need, Juice Plus can help you do that very economically and each day.
Oh, great.
I'm Laurie Lipscomb. I'm with Bryan University. We're a private university that's more career-oriented. We have medical assisting programs, medical lab technician programs, a business program. We're a 2-year college, but if you go into business, you can go all the way up to your master's with us. We run at an accelerated pace, and my job is to place the students in jobs that are in their field. But also, I have a dual role, and I'm also responsible for community outreach and involvement in the community and how our university can give back. The reason I'm here is our corporate offices are in Springfield, Missouri, and they make all the decisions about our curriculum as well as our marketing. They don't understand the demographics that we have here of our students and the needs that our university might need to be providing differently. So I'm kind of here to see what I can find out that maybe we can do locally for our campus to reach the students we need to reach.
Okay. Wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lila King. I'm with Smith Family Chiropractic in Bentonville. We are one of the largest clinics in the area. We saw 18,000 patients last year, so kind of shows you the size that we have. I moved here 5 years ago, so I'm still trying to find my way. I retired from the Department of Energy and wanted to go back to work because I thought this is the best way to meet people and find out about the area is to go back to work. And since marketing was in my past, I thought I'd go with it. And so I think we've done well, but we want to do better.
Okay. 18,000. That's quite a few. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Ann Antonio, I'm Marketing Director at Foundation Specialties. It's a foundation repair company. We do some commercial work, a little bit of new construction. I'm mainly in marketing for residents.
A case study in here that talks about a contractor.
Okay, great.
So you might enjoy that. Gentlemen?
I'm Jonathan Kassan. I work for Key Point Church. We have campuses in Bentonville and Springdale. I do work particularly with creative media for the church, video production, photography, design, and if you're going to learn how to do marketing better, what better place in the church to start than things that represent the face of the church.
Sure.
I'm Jordan Joplin, and I'm the campus pastor for the Bentonville location of Key Point Church. And I got the email about this and thought it would be really good. We don't really have customers, but we have people that attend, and we have people that are potential attenders of the church, and we want to get the message out about our church. And although there are a lot of great churches in Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot more people that are not.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that. So the format, we're going to try to go, I'm going to try to give you guys breaks every 50 minutes or so. And we'll probably do a little bit of lecture and Q&A for maybe 30 minutes and 20 minutes of exercises. And so that's the plan anyway. We'll see if it works. So what we're going to talk about today are really these 4 critical success factors of marketing. And it's the foundation of marketing. So if any of you all are basketball fans, anybody ever heard of John Wooden? Amazing basketball coach for UCLA, right? He recruited these awesome players from all over the country. And at the very first practice, you know what he told them how to do? Put their socks on right and tie their shoes. Why, Jordan? Gordon, I'm sorry. Jordan, sorry.
What I've heard is that they would, a lot of times in those days, even now too, they would get blisters. And when you get blisters, you can't play basketball.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Blisters. So Wooden taught them how to put their socks on right and tie their shoes right so they wouldn't get blisters. Because if they got blisters, they couldn't play. So here are these star athletes on these championship teams, blisters on their feet, sitting on the bench. Can't do that, right? Vince Lombardi. Ever hear of Vince Lombardi? Great football coach, Green Bay Packers. You know how he started his spring practice? Or rather his training camp every year? Professional football players. Best in the business. Gentlemen, this is a football. Why? There's nothing more important than taking care of the football in a game of football, right? Turnovers are the death knell of a football team. So the point is starting with fundamentals. And if you don't get the fundamentals right, you're going to have a really hard time. You know, you almost better not show up. And so we're going to talk about some fundamentals today, but you're going to see that the fundamentals take, as I said, a lot of practice. So let me ask you a question. Who's heard of Peter Drucker? Peter Drucker. Yes. Who's Peter Drucker?
Sales and marketing guru, I think, the author.
Yeah, Roger. He is one of the best, the most well-known writers and thinkers on business in American history. Fantastic. And Peter Drucker said, there are two really important things in business and everything else is a cost. The two most important things, marketing and innovation. And he said the purpose of a business is to make money? No. The purpose of a business is to get a customer. Why would he think that? And why does he think the purpose of a business is to get a customer? And why does he think the two most important functions of a business are marketing and innovation? What are your thoughts?
Well, the customer is going to produce the profit.
Exactly.
And the marketing we retain.
Yes. Yeah, and the innovation will help attract the customer too. Build your products and services, etc. Make you a better business. Exactly. So now I add one more thing to that. And I think it's a huge thing that we miss in American business, and that is people development. In all my years of business school, corporate America, etc., there's rarely been anything but lip service paid to people development. And I think we're really blind to this in terms of how much people affect our marketing. And we're going to go into quite a bit of depth on that today. So now, Drucker said the purpose of a business is to get a customer, and I would say the purpose of a business is to get a profitable customer. Because as you probably know, not all your customers are created equally. Not all your customers are profitable. And we're going to have a significant section in here where we talk about some of our best customers. I'm not sure how to apply that to a church. I haven't figured that one out yet. But you guys are creative, and I think there's some kind of application there. So there's a study recently done by it's called the State of the Business Owner, and it was done in just this year, and it said that the businesses that spend at least 2 days a week on marketing grow 60% faster than businesses that don't spend that amount of time on marketing, that spend less. So let me ask you, let's see a show of hands here. How many of you all spend at least 2 complete days a week on marketing? There's 1, 2, Marianne, so-so. Kim, maybe, right? So. Okay, as I said at the beginning, we're going to try to figure out how we can make marketing a daily practice where we're spending every single day, not obviously every part of every day on marketing, but it's just something that we do all the time, okay? So if you want to be among the elites, which I hope you do, you've got to devote a lot of time to marketing. You might think that you're in the cleaning business, or you might think that you're in the law business, or you might think that you're in the health clinic business. But we're all in the marketing business. That's really what we're in. Because if we're not in that business, if we just do our technical specialties, we're not going to have any customers. And the easiest way to kill a business is to let your lead generation dry up, right? So let's talk about the state of marketing in most businesses. I hope your business is different, or your church, or your nonprofit. But from what I've seen from many, many businesses, I'm not very impressed with the state of marketing in most businesses. They tend to view marketing as singular campaigns. Flavor of the month. We're going to run a product special this month. Something is on sale this month. And so what happens is there's a little bit of effort and energy for a while, but then it just dies down and everybody says, ooh, sure I'm glad that's over with. Now I can get back to my real job. Right? The other thing is that most companies don't measure their marketing very well. So, for those of you who do spend time on marketing, how well do you measure its effectiveness? Do you measure its effectiveness? I see one nod. I see a nod back and forth and an up and down. So, not a lot, right? I mean, it can be hard, yeah. It can be hard, yeah. Fortunately, with the internet and the way we can create landing pages and things like that, it's a little bit easier. You know, it can be done, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So, if you're a CEO of a company and I come to you and say, hey, I want to do certain marketing activities, first thing you should say to me is, what's the payback going to be and how are you going to measure it? And if I can't tell you, why would you invest? But a lot of marketing is very fluffy and flashy, but it's not measured. And so we'll talk a lot about measuring today. So the other thing is marketing tends to be neglected by CEOs and people in the executive suites because they have other things to do. They've got more important things to do, at least so they say. I can't imagine what's more important than understanding your customers and staying focused on them. But particularly in large corporations, as you go up the food chain, I can assure you the focus is not on customers. It's on financial statements, but a lot of those folks tend to be far, far away from the customers. And so what happens is they tend to think that what they're working on is the most important thing. They tend to project on the rest of the organization and diminish the importance of marketing and leave that to, as something that's tactical. So, and as a result, no strategy evolves. It just becomes scattershot. And I think that's the state of marketing in most companies is scattershot and unmeasured. Why do we have to do this? I don't even know if I'm getting any return on it at all. So, I'm on page 4, and we're going to take a look at strategic marketing, Introduction to Strategic Marketing. So there are 4 critical success factors, and I think there's good news and I think there's bad news. I think that the good news is that this is all doable. It's really doable. It's cost effective. The bad news is it takes time, effort, and a lot of hard work. But if you do this, you'll be in the upper tier of companies, okay? And the thing I want to let you know, too, particularly since we have some tech guys in the room, is that what we're going to talk about today applies to both online and offline marketing equally. Because remember, this is a football. This is putting your socks on right before you can slam dunk, right? Before you can get to the fancy stuff. So it applies in any channel of marketing. So what we'll talk about our brand promise, which I think is potentially the most important business concept I've ever heard of, I've ever been exposed to, is the brand promise. And this isn't brand advertising. This is what permeates your organization. It's why you're in business and how you want your customers to feel. Then there's marketing analytics and automation. And this is something that I have a lot of expertise in. And it really can be, if brand promise is the heart and soul of your company, marketing analytics and automation can be the brains behind what you do. We'll have a case study on that. And of course, the best way to build your business is through referrals. And referrals aren't something that just happens. You can make referrals happen. Not like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, right? But you can put systems in place that'll generate referrals, and that's going to be a big part of our discussion. And then we talked about leadership. Without good marketing leadership, both the leadership of people and expertise in marketing, and I'm not talking just about what prospects or what customers respond to, but leadership in terms of like a big project. How do I create a calendar? How do I get the right IT systems in place that are going to support my marketing? How do I get the right contact management system in place? How often do I contact people? Who contacts them? How do I train people to contact them? Right? So leadership is involved in all aspects of this. So let's, any questions so far? You guys good? How's the temperature in the room? Cold? So let's go through briefly what a brand promise is, right? It's something, I'm on the bottom of page 4, you want to evoke emotion from your customer or your client. If it's just a transaction, if you're just a transaction to them, neutral, they have no sense of alignment with you, no sense of why should I do business with you? Why should I do business with your healthcare clinic and not another clinic? Right? So there's got to be some experience that they have, some emotional attachment. Even with the law, I say even with the law firm, sorry.
That's what we're working on.
That's what you're working on, right? I remember shooting baskets in the driveway with my dad when I was probably 17 years old or so. So we're shooting, and a topic gets to be, what does Scott want to be when he grows up? And my dad said, son, I got 3 things for you not to be. Don't be an insurance agent. Don't be a lawyer. And don't be a banker. And I ended up being a banker. So, anyway, I could still be a lawyer. Yeah, there's a budding career in that, right? So we want to evoke emotion, and we want everybody in your organization to be able to feel and execute this brand promise. Then we've got, in marketing analytics and automation, they go together with your brand promise and your referral strategy. So if I've got a database, for example, and I understand who my best customers are, who's most profitable, who buys what product, but I don't have a strong emotional connection with my clients, then it doesn't really, I'm not going to be a world-class company. And if I don't use my marketing analytics and automation to track my referrals, know where my best referral sources are, who's giving them to me, what the value is of those referrals, I'm going to lose that data. It's just going to fall through the cracks. And so this is the brain, so to speak, of the organization. A referral strategy, we're going to talk about what I call organic and systematic ways to develop referrals. Organic meaning the way you do business just naturally, and systematic where you build systems to get referrals on purpose. And so regarding leadership, in each category that we talk about, leadership is going to be a factor. So it's going to be interlaced in each topic that we speak about. So let's go to page 6 and talk about brand promise. And under number 1 there, basically 1 through 3, I would say that we talked about we want your customers to experience a certain emotion from doing business with you, a really good emotion, creating a good customer experience. That's got to be orchestrated, and that's got to be on purpose. So, who's got a good story of a company that you do business with that evokes good emotion? Who's really positive about a company that you do business with? And it can be big, small, it can be an individual.
I can tell you from
Go ahead.
watching Subaru commercials.
Yes.
We have an 18-month-old son, and we recently bought a new car, but the Subaru commercials had my wife seriously wanting a Subaru because it's all about the family and keeping your kids safe and growing up together in the Subaru car. And she's like, well, maybe we should look at Subarus. This looks really cool. And so I think it evoked the emotion of family first.
Okay.
Safety, that kind of thing.
Perfect. So the Subaru commercials evoke family first, safety, and so
part of your family. Almost.
So that's easy to say, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy to put that message out there. Now what does Subaru have to do? After they sell you the car, for example, what do they have to do?
They have to deliver.
They've got to deliver on it, right? And how do they deliver on it?
They have a good product.
Good product. So the service person, when you take your Subaru in for maintenance, that's got to be, that person has to convey that message, right? Yeah. That same brand promise that was made in the commercial, now it's the moment of truth, and that person has to deliver on that, right? And anytime you deal with Subaru, parts, whatever, they've got to be delivering on that, okay? That's part of the leadership structure. So this is the foundation for all your systems, your operations, your finance, your human resources, your customer service. Brand promise is real. And it can sound like kind of a fluffy thing. I'm not a very fluffy guy. But it can sound like a fluffy, why do I need to have this? I just need to sell stuff kind of thing. But when your employees start behaving toward customers with the brand promise in mind, and when they do that consistently, that's when you've succeeded. We had a preschool, my wife and I did, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but our employees lived our brand promise, and it saved us from financial ruin on more than one occasion. So we've got boxes of Kleenex, which we'll pass around when I tell that story. Some of you might have night sweats tonight when we discuss that. But your brand promise for your employees, so it affects everybody, right? It affects your customers and your employees. It makes your place of business more than a paycheck to them. More than just a place to go. 70% of the American workforce can't stand their jobs. And so if you can create a brand promise and deliver on it to both your customers and your employees, you've created a different place to work. You've created something where your employees want to show up every day and take pride in what they do. Everybody wants to have meaning in their work. There are very few people that just want to show up and get a check. At our inner core, we want to have meaning and purpose behind what we do. And you can't get there, I don't believe, unless you have a strong brand promise. So what I'm getting at is under 3 is it brings your organization together, all different aspects of your organization, to a focal point on the customer. And what kind of experience you want that customer to have, what kind of emotions, what kind of problems you want to solve for that customer. And the bigger the organization, the more difficult it becomes to keep everybody aligned on that brand promise. Because communication becomes tougher. And then, if the organization is big enough, so I ran a department at a really big bank, then the internal departments have their own brand promises because my customers are all the other employees in the bank, right? So this can apply to, to an IT department. Probably needs to have their own brand promise in terms of how they're going to deliver to their internal customers. You guys need to understand how you're going to deliver to the different people in the church from a tech standpoint, graphic standpoint, etc. So I think that's a real competitive advantage for you if you have a great brand promise, because you're going to be able to integrate, you're going to be able to stand above your competition. Most of these businesses out here aren't thinking about what you're learning how to think about and apply. So at the bottom of page 6, something really interesting. I love it when research studies come out that prove my point. It's always great. It doesn't happen all that often, but in this case it did. And Gallup Research Company, you guys heard of them? Gallup Research, they do some wonderful stuff. They, every couple years for the last few decades, they've published a report, which I'll reference later, called the Gallup Study on the American Workforce. It's phenomenal. And this year they came out with something called the Gallup Study on the Consumer. And it's super, super interesting. The point that I liked for the sake of this presentation is that they said aligning customer engagement, we'll talk about what customer engagement is, but aligning customer engagement with brand promise is the definitive predictor of business growth. Aligning customer engagement with brand promise. And then they go into talk about customer engagement. The customer's emotional or psychological attachment to a brand, product, or company. And so I tried to think of some brands that I've got some at least emotional or psychological attachment to, and both like nationally and locally. And so one of the things that's not very flashy that I'm kind of lined up with is Collier Drugstore in Fayetteville. You heard of them? The experience is predictable. You go in, you need a prescription. You're not in the middle of this, massive store. They've got their environment very nice, and the people are friendly and they know what they're talking about. So they always say, Mr. McClymonds, have you had this before? I'd like to, do you know how to take it? Here are some cautions that I'd like to talk. I mean, it's very personal. So I know they're thinking about me. I know that they're conveying it at a very individual level. I have a coach. And so I resonate with my coach's brand, right? So we can resonate and become attached with people as well. Because really, aren't people what make up businesses? Now I'm going to say something very unpeople-like, and that is Amazon. I mean, isn't Amazon taking over the world just about? But they have good stuff, don't they? I got a grill cover from Amazon. Who would have known? But they've never messed up. And well, one time they did, and they made it right with me. And so when you do actually speak with a person in Amazon, it's a great experience. Anybody have any other brands? I'll give you another opportunity here. We had Subaru, but think of a local business.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, what about
No one's ever been mean in that
them? Okay.
I mean, ever. And, I mean, they usually, 99% of the time, do not mess up. And I had the same experience they did one time and literally, like, gave me all my money back. I mean, sent me, like, all this stuff. I was like, I'm not complaining that much. I was just telling you what happened, you know. And, I mean, they made it more than right.
Good.
Without having, you know, I mean, of course, I wasn't rude or anything, but, you know, they made it more than right. Just by, I was just mentioning it just because it never happens. I was like, what's going on? This is so weird. You know, I was very shocked when something didn't go exactly right.
So let me ask you guys, has Marianne yet mentioned food quality?
No.
What'd she mention?
Who cares? Who cares?
She wasn't, they weren't mean to her. They made it right. So you get profitable customers through engagement. So creating this emotional experience. And I'm sure you guys, particularly Roger in sales, you've probably heard this for sure, that most buying decisions are made where? From the heart or the head?
From the heart.
From the heart, right. And so, you know, does somebody, when you're talking about a cleaning supply or something like that, is that a head or a heart thing?
It's usually the head.
Okay.
Talking about the product, it's the head.
So how do you make it into a heart thing?
I engage the customer, get to know them, and form a relationship with them.
Okay. And when you show them pictures of what their place could look like, does that evoke emotion at all? Yeah, for sure it does. So Gallup is talking about how well you engage your customers. Okay, and they measure engagement with 3 questions. And as we go through these questions, I would like you to consider your business. A scale of 1 to 10. 10 the best, 1 the worst. How well, what you think your customers would say about you. Your company always delivers on what you promise. Even rate yourself on what your customer, high, medium, low. I feel, would your customers say that they're proud to be a customer or a client of your company? High, medium, or low? They're proud to be associated with you. And then this company, would your customers say this? How likely are they to say this? This company or church or law firm is the perfect company for me, the perfect church for me. Those are the customers that we want. And those are the customers that are going to resonate with your brand promise. Gallup has divided these customers in 3 levels of engagement: fully engaged, indifferent, and actively disengaged. Ooh, that sounds very nasty, and it is. Now you can use those same questions that we just read to survey your own customers. We did it a little bit at our preschool, Busy Bees. But the fully engaged customers, they're advocates for your company. They're out there talking about you actively. They're saying, oh, either in social media or with their friends. They're the ones that'll, well, your actively disengaged will do this too. They'll go on Yelp or Instagram or whatever, Pinterest, and talk about you, either positively or negatively, right? They'll do the reviews. The big thing about the fully engaged, this is probably going to be a minority of your customers, but they tend to be the most profitable. So, for example, it says they have a 23% premium in terms of wallet share. Wallet share, what that means, so let's go back to Chick-fil-A, Marianne. There are a number of fast food. I've got a certain, or maybe you have a certain budget or certain universe allocated knowingly or unknowingly in your mind for fast food. And Chick-fil-A, do you eat anywhere fast food wise besides Chick-fil-A?
Hardly ever.
Chick-fil-A has, okay, so they have almost 100% of your fast food wallet share.
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So you're probably an engaged customer with them. Would you say that? Are you an advocate for, you don't go around with, you're not
I put on reviews and stuff because, there was an issue one time and they've made it completely right. I was like, that's
okay.
She's making me want to go Chick-fil-A.
Good. Well, you don't have an eat more chicken sign, but you're a brand advocate, right?
I guess.
But they've got all of your wallet share, okay? So for that. Now in the banking industry, what happens is customers have their wallet share spread all over the place, right? Business, personal, I got my mortgage over here, free checking over here, and that's a nightmare for bankers. Well, think about it, You've got a free checking account that's losing $157 a month for a year for the bank. They want more, right? They want so, but a lot of banks have a tough time differentiating themselves one from another. But your best customers, you're fully engaged, are generally your most profitable. Then there's this large pool of indifferent customers. Well, I could take them or leave them. I could take my company or not. They don't do anything for me. They're just there. They take my money. I get what I need. Done. That's not where you want to be. But where you really don't want to be is actively disengaged. These are people who are writing the negative reviews. The people who really have they've got a 13% less profitability and wallet share. These people can really destroy your business. We had a few of these at our preschool. You don't want an angry mom as a preschool customer, right? Because even if it was your fault or not, right? Angry is angry. And they can really soil your reputation in the community and really put a dent in your brand promise, make you look inauthentic. So I want you to think about these kinds of customers: the fully engaged, the indifferent, and the actively disengaged. So flip to page 8. And this is just going to really drill this point home in terms of fully engaged versus actively disengaged. Just look at those numbers. Banking. The fully engaged brings in 37% more revenue than the actively disengaged. Since we talked about fast food, 56% more visits per month. Amazing. And insurance, 22% more products. So this is real. And of course, the question is, How do I find these people? How do I know who's who? So, but before that, you've got to figure out how, put this brand promise in place and make sure it's executing throughout your organization. You can get at who's engaged and who's indifferent, who's disengaged. You can kind of get at that in terms of what people buy. You can sort of do that through surveys. You can do some outbound phone calls. You can do some exit surveys, etc. That's why when your car dealer, my Ford dealer typically sends me something in the mail, a survey to find out how it went, right? Or they give me a call. They're trying to find out how engaged I am as a customer. Okay? How's everybody doing? Are you ready for a break yet? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. We're going to start at about 9:15, 9:16. We're going to continue with brand promise. And I'm intentionally taking my time here because remember at the very beginning, what did I say about it? It's the most important what? This is a test. Most important business concept I've heard of. This can guide your whole leadership. It can guide all your systems for your entire company, church, nonprofit, wherever you happen to work. So we're taking our time a little bit going through here. But in just a little while, you're going to have an opportunity to create your own brand promise and kind of do your touch points analysis. See how effective you think your brand promise is in different areas of your organization. So let's continue. We are on page 8. So we talked about Subaru and I use the term touch points, but when I go to get my I have a Ford, an F-150, okay? And so when I go to the Ford dealer to get my oil changed, I don't expect for it to come out with something else wrong, right? But it sometimes does. I can never figure it out. So they're not keeping their brand promise to me, I don't think anyway, when that happens. You could look at it that way, right? Or you could say, well, but they're actually, if I was a Ford dealer owner, maintenance department manager, I would actually say, but you know what, Scott, we are keeping our brand promise to you. Because you bring your truck in here and you've deferred some maintenance. And we're finding these things out for you that are keeping you safe. And in fact, they probably are. So, but the point is, that's a good touch point. When I go to the billing, right? So let's say I had a good experience getting my truck fixed, and now they say, yeah, take these 4 sheets of paper here and go down the hallway and here's the cashier way down here. And so you go down to the cashier, and happens to be a she. So she's on a personal phone call, chewing lots of gum, and won't look at me. And I need to go because I've got an appointment in 10 minutes. The whole thing just fell apart, right? So I hope you're getting what I'm saying about this brand promise is real. And so you've got to deliver on it. They've got to know what your company stands for. And so at the very bottom of page 8, knowing what your company stands for, who has to know what your company stands for first? Your employees and your managers, right? And you do if you're the owner of it. But look at the last phrase there, the last bullet at the bottom of the page. Only 46% of managers and 37% of employees know what their company stands for. So 2/3 of employees have no idea what their company stands for, or how it's any better, or how it's any different than anybody else. More than 50% of the managers have no clue of why their company is different or what their company stands for. And so, rather than keep this abstract, I would ask you to do a gut check now. And that is to say, what about you? What about the people in your firm? What about your managers? What about your employees? Do they know what you stand for and why? Do they know what you're trying to deliver for the customer? As someone is performing the act of cleaning, does that person know and understand how to deliver on that brand promise? Or are they just going to, mop over the gum that's on the floor? It's a big difference, right? They seem like little things, but they're huge. They're the separators between world class and mediocre.
They affect the consumer that way, is that what you mean?
Yes, they affect the consumer's perception that way. So on page 9, right, this kind of sums it up. If your employees don't know what you stand for, don't believe in what you're doing, or they think, well, you say that's what you stand for, but you really don't, then how are they going to pass that message on to your customers? They can't. All right, it's hard to fake it. So, item number, bullet point number 5 there. Does everybody get that, by the way? Bullet point number 5 there is the fix. How do we fix this? How do we make sure this brand promise actually comes out and customers experience it? Well, we said that the customers need to know what you stand for, but also there needs to be a lot of branding internally with your employees. And we're going to spend the next few pages on that. The next few pages are full of ideas on how you can do that. Because really, if you think about it, you've got your marketing, your strategic marketing is kind of going in several directions, right? It's not just going out to your customers or to your prospects. So it's going to prospects, right? And it's going to customers because you want more customers or clients, but it's also going to your employees. And if you don't have employees, let's say you're a solopreneur, which, by the way, 27 million businesses in America. This is an aside. 27 million businesses. 20 million of them don't have employees. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of solopreneurs. And so I'm one of them. What do? We have to build our strategic partner network. And so our strategic partners, we market to our strategic partners. I have to market to David, for crying out loud, right? Yes. I mean, David's got to be convinced, first of all, that I can pay, but second of all, that I can, he's got competing interests. And so why should he take my job over somebody else's, right? So we've got to market, even if we're solo professionals. And so on number 6, Roman numeral 6, there are 10 ways to boost your brand power. And a lot of these have to do with your employees. And, the first thing is everybody is important in your organization. There's no job that is unimportant. And I think of an example. I mean, this is the first thing that came to mind, but from the Bible, the Apostle Paul talks about the body and all the parts, the knees, the toes, the fingers, the ears, the eyes, the head, all have to work together for the body to function. And they have to be going in the same direction, the same goal, and that's the same way with your employees. And so, how many times does somebody say, well, I'm just a this, right? Or I'm just a that. They diminish themselves. Part of our jobs as leaders is to make sure they know that their job really counts. The person that fixed your problem, Marianne, at Chick-fil-A, or the people, their job really counted, right? They weren't the CEO. They were right there at the counter, making things right for you, right? So that's. I mean, if there's an unimportant job in our organization, then why do we have it? Let's just get rid of it, right? We don't need it if it's unimportant. So nobody can say that their job, every job matters in the delivery of the brand promise and the customer's experience. And so, B, audit your internal meetings. So what I'm saying is, are you saying one thing? Is there something on the wall that says what your brand promise is? But when you do your performance reviews, or when you coach your employees, or when you have your staff meetings, are you saying something else? So sometimes we get blind. Sometimes we get caught up in focusing on the fire drill for today and not the overall what's strategically important. So we've got to keep tabs on ourselves and have other people hold us accountable. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go to, I'm not going to hit every single one of these, but let's move to page 10. Now, when I first read this from Gallup, I thought it was a little bit of a goofy idea. And it still might be. But I thought about it some more, and the effect is pretty good. I mean, under E, use simple tools like wallet cards as ready references so your employees can remember your brand promise. Well, it might sound, does anybody think that's goofy? You can say. Yeah. Probably a little bit goofy, but them memorizing your brand promise is not goofy. Would you agree? Yeah. So being able to have your brand promise front and center and be able to deliver it and speak to it and even do some things that are outside the playbook, so to speak, in order to deliver the brand promise, that's a good thing, right? And so I go through here and talk about understanding that you're building your brand promise into your training functions. So back to no job is unimportant. Every function that you train. I think of, once again, coming from the banking world. We had teller schools. And, they would learn to process transactions and hit this button and that button. And I remember even when I was in Ohio, I went to one of these trainings just to see what it was like. And they showed us this video of these masked gunmen on top of the teller counter. So they teach you that stuff. So they teach you what to do in every situation, but there's no brand promise, taught. New employees are, most of them are taught, well, this is what the mission values is. These are our procedures, our rule book, etc. How often, and then once you're done, if your brand promise is taught, when is it ever reinforced ever? So I'm talking about reinforcing it. And down under J, I think this is really important. I used to do exercises like this in the banking industry, but most companies, over 90% of all companies, have some sort of higher top-down management. So the decisions and the ideas come from up here, and they're pushed down, and the rest of us are just supposed to do them. There's only about 3% of the companies in the world that really are considered kind of non-hierarchical, free companies. And the reason I bring this up is if you want to solicit ideas from your employees, they've got to feel free to do that. And they've got to be engaged enough to want to bring ideas forward to make your company better. Anybody have any good stories about employee ideas that you hadn't thought of? That took your company forward in a way that wouldn't have ever gotten there if they hadn't thought of that. Then I'll have to tell you one. So we got into this preschool business, and we're really naive. We thought we knew what we were doing, and we sort of did to a certain extent. But we missed some things. And so we were at least smart enough to hire some veterans from the preschool business. And they said, hey, are you getting reimbursements on your food? We're like, what? Yeah, you can get reimbursements on your food for every child that you serve. The government will pay you a certain amount of money. We're like, really? We're spending thousands of dollars a month on food. You mean we can get that back? Yes, sir, you can. Okay. Well, hey, we would have been many, many thousands of dollars poorer if that employee hadn't felt the freedom and cared enough to deliver on that. So really creating an environment where you're asking people for ideas is that's the kind of company that you have to develop. Sam Walton, right? He used to walk around to his stores. Have you ever seen that the plaque of he's got his 10 business laws or something like that on a plaque? One of them is to talk to your front line constantly. He says, because they're the only ones that really know what's going on. So, great source of ideas right there. So the number one thing, bottom of page 10, number one thing you can do. Now this is a marketing presentation, right? Strategic marketing. But the number one thing you can do to make your brand promise real and something that your organization lives and breathes is to hire great managers. Right? We already know that over half of managers don't know what their brand promise is and what their company stands for. So you want managers who can do that. And who can get those ideas and train them from employees and train them. And the next point on page 11, I couldn't believe this when I saw it. According to Gallup, 82% of the time we hire the wrong people. So if you think about this as a marketing presentation, think about that. One of the main things we have to do if we want to be better marketers is hire better, right? Hire the right people. And over time, typically I find when you start a business or when you first become a manager, you don't hire very well. I mean, that happens a lot. You believe somebody's story. You're desperate to get a warm body in a position, and you hire them. And they don't work out. Sometimes a lot of them don't work out. And it just takes time to learn how to hire people and to use that brand promise as a main litmus test to get the right person in the door. So at Busy Bees Christian Preschool, we had a lot of bad hires at the very beginning. Not so much with the directors, but with the teachers. And I got involved and really pressed people on this brand promise when I interviewed them. I kind of made them sweat a little bit on this and really made sure they believed it and could execute on it and that they weren't just bluffing me. And most of the time it worked. So, and I think that's why, as we get into the story in a little bit, That's why the better we hire, not just for a belief in the brand promise, but for the person's gifts and skills and their fit with the position. We're going to be better marketers. We're going to be more referable. So once again, as we heard earlier, products are only part of the story. And Marianne didn't tell us about the chicken sandwich or whatever, the fries that she got. She told us about the people that helped her. So a lot of businesses hire employees without giving a lot of thought to their ability to take care of the customer. So we really need to change that. The best companies in the world really invest heavily in their workforce, okay? And it's not just hiring, it's ongoing training. People forget what you stand for. They start just showing up, right? I mean, they got their children off to school, barely. The dog didn't get walked, and they're in a hurry. They forgot to pay their bills last night, and life happened to them. And suddenly it's 8 o'clock and they're at work. And your brand promise is not on their mind. They're just happy to be there. And so our jobs as leaders is to daily reinforce it. We don't have to, repeat the brand promise every day. But as you work on this, you'll come up with creative ways to reinforce it in your team meetings and even just in your greetings in the morning. People need to have that little reminder of what you stand for just to get their heads on straight so they can perform well that day. And they want to perform well. So on page 11, number 5, I talked about a touch points analysis, and we're about to do that. This is where your brand promise becomes real. And here's a little story. I like to go to Lowe's. Lowe's is convenient. First of all, I don't like stores, okay? I mean, I just don't like to go to stores. There are a few that I go to. Lowe's, I like. We have some rental properties. Andrew grew up in Lowe's as his second home. So I went to Lowe's, for the zillionth time. This was just the other day. This was Monday, right? And they mess this up every time. You say, I would like to get I'd like to get a door. Today I need a door. I want that door right there. Can you do that for me? Oh, yes, sir, I can do that for you. Let me look you up in our computer system. I see that you've got several properties and several phone numbers. Yes, none of them are correct. This is the one I'm talking about today, and none of those phone numbers, you can't reach me on those phone numbers, okay? Here's one you can call me at. All right, so I watched the guy put it in. I watched him, because this happened to me before. Looks good. So he says, here's your sheet. Go up to the cashier and pay. So, I've got 2 Lowe's stories. Okay, so this is a good one. So I get to the cashier, and I say, oh man, I don't have my Lowe's credit card. I was going to pay with my Lowe's card. This guy says, sir, that is not a problem. I can issue you a temporary card. And I just gave him a few little bits of information. I thought it would be painful. It wasn't. Temporary card. It's good till the end of the month, sir. No problem. Have a good day. Wow. That guy delivered. That guy did deliver. So I had another transaction. I think it was for carpeting. And so I met the cashier, and the guy had put my information in. I just watched him put it in. Get to the counter, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have your information. I'm like, what happened? I mean, I was just 100 feet back there. I saw him put it in, and now you don't have it up here. So, now I know that it's not the fault of the people on both ends of that transaction. There's some technical issue that's going on there, right? There's a server that didn't communicate or didn't update quickly enough by the time I walked from the back of the store to the front. So those IT people, whoever they are, whatever's going on, is not helping Lowe's deliver on their brand promise. So don't tell me that back office people who never see a customer are not important for delivering on a brand promise, because they're critical, right? Anybody ever had a mess up at an ATM? ATM ate your card. No?
Yeah.
That was just so I wouldn't tell another story, right?
And it wasn't my fault. I put it in there and it gave me my money, and I took the money out and I was messing around. And I guess there's a time limit. If
Yeah.
you leave it there, it just sucks it up.
Gone.
Next thing I knew, they took my debit card.
Yeah.
I couldn't even the car.
Yeah.
So I go into the bank and I said, I was just right there. You can see I just took out the money, and you have my debit card, and I need it. It's, that's how I get all my money. I don't. And they're like, we cannot give that to you. You're gonna have to get to where you go to your bank, do this, do that. And I'm going, no.
Oh.
But they delivered. They contacted my bank. They looked at the video camera. They saw where I was sitting right there. It matched up the transaction. They called my bank, spoke with my bank directly, did an ID, and said, we're going to go ahead and give it back to you. Which,
how nice.
Now I like that bank.
Yeah, good.
Because I understand why they did it, for security purposes, and it made sense. But it also makes sense that you can look, you were standing right there, you saw me do it, the transaction match, here's my license, call my bank, give it back to me. I don't care what your rules are. I mean, common sense says everybody knows that's my card, I just put it in.
Yeah, right.
And so they did give it back to me, and therefore I don't hate them now.
Great. So it's never going to be perfect, right? No one's ever going to be perfect, but they need to make things right. So in your university, did you say it was Bryan or Bryant?
Bryan, B-R-Y-A-N.
Bryan University, okay. So just imagine someone has a wonderful experience with, let's say, a career counselor, or they decide to sign up for your university. Maybe they sign up online or something like that, or the web page sells them, and their subsequent call to perhaps a counselor, but then they sign up for a course, and it's the wrong course, right? They put in one thing, but out came another, or the billing messed them up. So, those technical issues in this day and age, that is so critical on delivering to the customer.
Our IT
Okay.
is very important because we do a lot of online. We have all ebooks.
Yeah.
So if IT's not doing their job, we're not delivering. So we do customer service every day from the minute we walk in the door until we leave, because students, it's all about, we're for profit, so therefore they are a customer. So it's all about customer service. And I do believe in bringing in, like, if you don't believe in what you're offering to them, it's hard to fake it.
Sure it is.
And when you have employees who don't believe in it, that attitude kind of trickles down. It's a trickle down effect. But
Yeah.
no, customer service is huge, even in a university when you're for profit, because you can go to the U of A. If you don't like it, you quit. U of A really doesn't care. I mean, maybe they do, but not when you're a small for-profit university that, we brand ourselves to do a certain thing. And if we don't deliver, those highly disengaged people cause us a lot of trouble.
You bet they do.
Right.
You made me think of something, and that is, a lot of us are in small business here. And for many of us, we're always worried about cash flow, right? I mean, you kind of alluded to, cash flow is a focus. I mean, as it should be. And so when we get to be so focused on cash flow, we can get panicky. We can take our eye off the strategy component of our business. We can take our eye off a brand promise and just start thinking about what's going to generate a quick sale today. I don't care who I sell to, where it comes from, or how much they pay. And pretty soon, if we keep doing that, I mean, we might need a few of those to survive, but if we do that often enough, we're going to be gone, right? We're not going to have a strategy. And so we're talking about making time to work on this in your business. And I know it's tough to make time to do this, but it's got to be done. You always want to separate yourself from your competitors, from everybody else. Everybody else is not doing this. So a couple examples of brand promises, right? Page 12, Busy Bees Christian Preschool. For some reason, we were crazy enough to get into the preschool business. We were in that for about 5 years. So my wife Cindy and I, this is what we decided we wanted to stand for. Our job is providing high quality education in a safe, fun environment where students are treated as individuals and introduced to the basics of the Christian faith. Employees have a safe environment to grow and express their gifts and creativity. Parents have peace of mind knowing their children are safe, learning, having fun, are with people who love them. So this guided our hiring, it kept us focused, led our staff meetings, and as I said, got us out of a real financial nightmare at one point in 2010. So the brand promise of Nehemiah Worldwide, basically, you have consultants and coaches that just view their clients as transactions. We want to be a trusted advisor and a friend, an integral part of a team. And what should they experience, right? And a client should experience, as a result of working with us, dramatic growth, not just in their company, but in themselves. We're not just interested in helping companies grow. We want people to grow. We want teams to grow and work better together, okay? And we want them to be able to say, well, I was impacted by their emphasis not only on building a profitable business, but one that's a great place to work and that is an asset to their community. So as this company grows and we hire employees, or even as we work with strategic partners, we've got to look at those strategic partners in terms of, can my strategic partner deliver on this brand promise? Are they going to be a good reflection of me? Okay, and as strategic partners are very, very important, this contractor that we're going to look at here in a little bit, they have their staff doesn't install the windows, sidings, and doors. They contract out to teams to do that. Well, those contractors, those subcontractors, have to line up with this company's brand promise, okay? You got to really think about who you do business with, who helps you on projects, etc. So, page 13, you've got a lot of questions there that'll help you develop a brand promise. These are not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. They're just designed to get you thinking. Just really quickly, how are you going to improve the lives of your customers? What do you want them to feel, experience, think, and say about you? Who are your primary customers, by the way? What are their characteristics and attributes? So, in this session here, we've got both for-profit and non-profit companies. So, a church or a community clinic might look at that last question very differently. Who are your primary customers? Versus a for-profit entity, right? it could be a very different equation. Kimberly, part of, you might be looking at donors as well. Donors are part of your client base. It's not just the patients, right? It's the donors as well, for example. So I want you to consider these questions. You're about to get an assignment, by the way. Narrow down your answers to a couple sentences, and then start thinking about how to build your business around this statement. So go to page 14, and I'm going to give you about, well, let's just say 10 to 15 minutes to complete pages 14 and 15. So you're going to build your brand promise on page 14, and then you're going to do your touch points analysis on page 15. And what I really mean by that is go through all the different parts of your organization. Human resources, IT, finance and accounting, the actual delivery of your service. And think about how well each of those aspects of your business, or touch points, customer touch points, delivers actually on your brand promise. So it's 9:57, no later than 10:15, I'm going to call a halt, and I might call a halt before this, maybe 10 after or so. And I'd like us to be able to just share a little bit about what you wrote down, okay? Interrupt your trains of thought, but we've still got a long ways to go, and we're going to have to push. So why don't you tell me some of the things that you wrote down about your brand promise and about your touch points. I saw most of you had done the brand promise exercise, and a few of you had started with the touch points analysis. So let's hear what you came up with. You don't have to go through every one of those questions, but what's on your mind as you wrote this down?
I'll say something.
Go ahead.
What makes us different, Bryan University, is that we offer a college education option to people, especially individuals who are bright academically but just didn't try in high school and never took the ACT. It's not required to take the ACT to get in our school. We have another test that we have them take, and they have to perform in a certain range to be in a certain degree program. Also, our classes are very flexible in scheduling, so you can work full-time and still go to school and pursue your college career. And we're also unique in that we work with them from day one on helping them find a suitable job while they're in school, so they can afford to go to school, and for a job in field once they leave. They have those services available to them as a lifetime service once they graduate. So if you graduate in 5 years, you decide you don't want to work for Highland Oncology anymore, or you don't want to work for the Juvenile Probation Office, then you can come back to the school and we will actively look for the next step up for you. I don't want to describe my personality or attitudes because that's not that of the university, but the university's in business for money. It's a for-profit school. We can put a mission statement up there all day long, but the bottom line is the man who owns the company does it to make money. That's not what we do there individually, but it is a business. Walmart's the same thing. Walmart doesn't care if you live cheaper, they want you.
So you track your referrals.
Yes.
They go into a system.
Yes.
And then you're obviously tracking the quality of those referrals and whether or not they turn out to be students.
Yes. We know where our referrals come from. We know where they come from an inquiry.
So good example there of what we're talking about today, the fundamentals, right? They've got that brand promise. It works. They deliver on it. They get referrals, and they're tracking them. They're tracking their marketing. So what percentage, do you know what percentage of your new students come from referrals versus outside advertising?
I do not know that because I'm not in that department. Our referrals are really low now, as opposed to maybe a year or two ago. And that's why I think that we need to pick up with our customer service and going back to fulfilling the brand promise, because it's all about that.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%.
More questions. Do you measure, like, do you survey your customers, your students, to determine whether or not they think you're delivering on your brand promise? Like how well they think you're delivering?
We do a graduate survey. We do that, and I'm responsible for that. All graduate surveys go out 30 days after they graduate, and then we analyze those. I think where we lack and can fill the gap is we probably need, and they do surveys at the end of every course on the instructor.
Sure.
But I think at the end of every course there needs to be a survey implemented, and this is where our gap is, on customer service all the way around.
Okay.
Did they have trouble with their computer and IT didn't get it fixed? Did they need their books uploaded and no one was in the library to help them do that? Those are
Get some other input, but I appreciate that. Those are excellent thoughts. You've thought that out very, very well. Anybody else want to tell their brand promise? Don't be shy now. Come on. Go ahead. Continue that on to the next page for the touch points.
Yes, sir.
Not yet. Okay. That's good. Very good. Who else?
I'll do.
Okay.
Community Clinic believes that everyone deserves access to quality and affordable health and dental care, regardless of their ability to pay. So that's kind of our mission, and our tagline is "Healthy People, Healthy Lives." What makes us unique is we focus on prevention. We don't really want to do. We will do walk-in patients, but we want you to come there for your wellness checks. If you need diabetes counseling, nutrition counseling, we do all of that in-house. And we want our patients to feel comfortable. So we have 60% of our staff is bilingual. They can see the same providers, and they don't have to go to other offices or see other doctors for their needs.
Okay, good. And so were you able to take a look then on your touch points to see how well you think you're delivering on that?
I did a little bit. I think where we're lacking is with our branding, kind of how I mentioned with us being community clinic, a lot of people automatically think free clinic.
Okay.
So we've talked a little bit about that in-house and how we want to kind of revamp our branding.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can you differentiate between brand promise and like mission statement, purpose
Yeah.
that kind of thing?
Yeah, great question. Can I differentiate between brand promise and mission statement and vision? So to me, the brand promise really informs the way I do business every single day. It informs my operation. It informs how I train my employees. It informs how I engage customers. Kimberly just said a comfortable environment for their patients. And one of the things that she mentioned was a 60% bilingual staff. That's not the kind of stuff that's generally in a mission or a vision statement. You know, vision is what we want to be like, you know, the future vision of our company. The mission is more like why we exist, and the brand promise is, in my opinion, how do we do it? It's a real operating statement. Living, breathing. It's not necessarily on your wall somewhere, right? It's just, it's real.
So it's like a lot of times, you know, you want to make a mission statement or a value statement something easily memorable that people can repeat, maybe a couple of sentences or one sentence. But a brand promise is more, it takes a little more description to it.
Yeah, I think it does. You know, you saw the Busy Bees and the Nehemiah brand promises. They were, you know, paragraph. Yeah, I mean, it describes the value that we want to bring to our customers, how we want them to feel, and how we want their lives to be impacted.
Yeah. So if you
it's real customer oriented.
If you want your employees to, you know, internalize it and live it out, do you break it down so that they memorize it? How do you get it in a repeatable way that can, easily be internalized by members of the team?
Yeah, how do we repeat it? And so that people can internalize it. I used to do it at hiring and at staff meetings, and I used to walk around the preschool and talk about safety and ask people what we're doing for safety. What are we doing to give the moms and dads peace of mind from their children? I'd say, well, we have those security cameras that are able to stream video to a parent's desk because we want to give them peace of mind and let them know that they're not only their children are safe, but we want them to see that we're loving on their kids, right? And so I would just find ways, and it wasn't always conscious. It was more like, what I wanted customers to feel like and what I wanted to convey to our employees just came out of me, in what we did. So, but I did consciously take opportunities, not always to, hey, you need to memorize this, but just taking that apart and reinforcing elements of it over and over again, either formally or informally. And also, on some things, having a zero tolerance policy. Like if you mess this up, you are toast. Right? And I had to make a few examples of people because they messed up in how we deliver to the customer. There's zero tolerance in certain things. So, I would say, just reinforce it over time, rather than just...
And you said it's operational, so I think it's reflected in your operation.
Exactly. Exactly. And your managers, in your case, you've got different pastors and different, even volunteers are probably pretty big, right? Small groups or whatever. When you train those small group volunteers, are they going to deliver? How are you going to train them in order to deliver what you wrote down on your brand promise? Right? Because they've got to believe it too. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I think one of the most...
Let's just say that, let's say I'm the owner of this chiropractic clinic, or I'm the head of finance or something like that. The last thing I want any of my employees to do, this used to be a pet peeve of mine, is to come up and just dump that problem on my desk and say, here's the problem. I don't have any solutions, but here's the problem. Right? So I think to be successful, think about, set your expectations right. Okay, so, you're not going to go back this afternoon and that clinic's not going to change on a dime, right? But if you can put some ideas together, like I'm going to show you a proposal here, how to construct a proposal. If you can put a proposal together with some ideas and some ways to operationalize them, and take your gap analysis, your touch points analysis, to your boss, and with a plan or an approach for getting those done, a good boss is going to listen. They're not going to buy off everything at once, right? Because they just can't blow up the clinic, right?
Doctors are different people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're not the norm.
Sure.
But one thing that, and exactly I did that, I was having trouble with my marketing money. And because I didn't know how much I had, I didn't know how many ads on the TV I could put or on the radio or I do like 30,000 inserts in the newspaper a month. And so what do I put out? We do lectures all month. So finally I said, if I had an amount, give me an amount that I have each month. And then let me decide what I think will work. And let's just try that for 6 months and see what happens. And we started that last month, and so far that's been better. I don't go with Tim with every single thing. and that has helped. Now, I run out of money pretty quick because he didn't give me a lot.
Sure.
But.
Well, it's right. It's at the very beginning, we said that CEOs tend to not think a lot about marketing because they don't know what the return is going to be, right? So, it's incumbent upon you to educate this person on what the return is, to track it, and to see this is how much business we gained.
Yeah. And I track it, and every penny I spend, I have a ledger, I keep it all, and then for our referrals and for our tracking to measure, every time somebody calls and gets an appointment, I say, how did you find out about us? Was it the newspaper? Was it the inserts? Was it the TV? Was it the radio? So every single one, and then at the end of the month, I can give him something that shows him we got this from this.
That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's just some things it's hard to wrap your hands around because you don't have any control.
You don't have any control. Control is different from influence. And so, anybody heard of John Maxwell? Leadership guy, right? His definition of leadership is influence. Nothing more and nothing less. Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not positional. I'm going to talk to you about a case study here in a little bit that I did as a senior manager in a big company, but I certainly wasn't the CEO. I certainly wasn't on the executive management team. I led from the middle. And there are many people who say leadership comes from the middle, which is why it's so critical to hire great managers. So how's everybody doing so far? Is it okay if we take a break at the end of marketing analytics and automation because we're a little bit behind? This brand promise thing it's huge. I mean, gentlemen, this is a football, right? I mean, this is how to John Wooden, put your socks on and tie your shoes. It's huge and it's missed. So it's the heart and soul of your company. So now let's talk about the brains of your company, the nerve center, the database, marketing analytics and automation. Like I said before, if you just have analytics and automation in your marketing without a brand promise, it's almost like you have a company with no soul. So they've got to go together. And we've also seen already an example of how the analytics go together with referrals. So what do I mean by analytics and automation? First of all, fundamentally, I mean you've got to have a database of your customers at a minimum and perhaps your prospects. How many of y'all have a customer database? Good. Well, you do, right? 18,000 clients served last year. Kimberly, I think you said 30,000 last year. I mean, that's a lot of people to keep track of, right? So within that database, I'm going to tell you, this is what I tell my clients, that's what I told my banking clients, that's what I tell them today, telling you right now. That is the gold mine. It's the vault. And very few people use it. Very, very few people use it. Very few people analyze it and understand what's in there. How many of y'all regularly analyze what's in your customer database? Somebody on your team does. There's one, and there's a yes. So what do you, and you do too?
I do our donor database, but
Okay.
I don't have access to the customer database, because that's patients.
Okay.
It's clinical. So
Okay, good. You do? Roger, what sorts of things are you looking at?
Well, I have what I refer to as my pipeline. That's all my previous proposals.
Okay.
So those are prospects that I've met in person. I concentrate a great deal on that because to me that's my gold mine.
Yes.
New leads are certainly important, but people that I've already been to, already been in their building, already presented a proposal are still a warmer lead kind of new prospect.
Right.
So I constantly work in my pipeline and trying to find new ways to convert them to customers.
Okay.
So I do a pipeline comparison compared to new leads generated during the last 30 days and what sales have come from those. And then I decide whether I spend time with further development of my inside people that are setting appointments for me, or spend time on developing a monthly, I do a monthly campaign for my prospects, previous proposals, that either is letters, phone calls, or constant contact.
Okay, good. That's excellent. That's a great system. Very good system. Complicated?
No, not now that I've got it in place.
Maybe to set up, right? Maybe to set up it was a little bit complicated. Yeah.
Where it was effective.
Yeah. But once it's in place, does it take much maintenance?
It's easier and easier.
Okay, good. Excellent. So most companies don't do what Roger just told us about. They underutilize their data. I remember this vividly. April of 2012, I was in a large bank with a sales manager, a regional manager, and a marketing manager, and I had presented them the gold mine, in terms of reports and the direction that they should go in. And, basically what they said was, yeah, this hurts my head, I don't have time. They weren't willing to go there. It was out of their niche of expertise. And so I'll say this about marketing automation and analytics, is that too many people are afraid of it because they think it's brain surgery. And it isn't. All you're trying to do, yes, there's data, yes, there are numbers, but all you're trying to do really is understand people's behavior. If you're looking at the marketplace in general, you're trying to understand behavior of the market. If you're looking at your customer database, you're just trying to understand their behavior. So when Roger analyzes his database, you're kind of assessing their behaviors, right? In other words, how likely are they? You're going back on conversations, your appointments, how did they go, how did they respond, etc., right?
Looking for trends.
Looking for trends.
So I can do that more and better, and what doesn't work so that I stop doing that.
Yes. In fact, would you like to just trade spots right now, Roger, and you could just give the... Because you're doing great, You seriously, you are doing good. You took you used a word that is very important, and that is the trend. And so a lot of what you're trying to do with the analytics here is spot the trends. And so in the case of a chiropractic clinic, trends that I might want to spot. Where do customers come from? What kind of injuries, or what reasons are they, what's the trend in terms of reasons for showing up, right? Are they coming up from certain cities? Are they are they certain ages? Am I attracting people of particular ages? Are they sports-related injuries, or are they more occupational related, for example? I want to know trends. And I want to be able to associate trends. If I'm a for-profit business, I want to be able to associate trends with profitability, with customer satisfaction, with customer loyalty, with referrals. Okay?
That's exactly the way that it is, because like for instance, Bella Vista, we have lots of patients in Bella Vista because of golfing. So we have a lot of knee injuries, we have a lot of shoulder, so those types of, so I look at that, and when we're having a lecture and say, okay, Dr. Smith, I think you need to speak on knee and shoulder injury and pain.
Yes.
So that's kind of...
That's right. So that informs your marketing, right? So if you're doing a lot of knee and shoulder stuff, and it's golf related, then your newsletter has a picture of somebody golfing, you know, that is of the Bella Vista age range, right?
Exactly what we said.
And et cetera. And so your testimonials, et cetera, can all be... So you see how looking at the... This is why I say it's the brains of your operation. Because you're analyzing these trends and finding out what they mean, and then that is informing your actions. So in your case, it's informing your advertising. As it should be. The same in a community clinic. I'm not sure what the key metrics are in your nonprofit, but whatever your key metrics are that you can point to as being successful, okay, those are the things that you need to pull the information out of your database that's going to correspond to those key metrics and inform them and enable you to act in such a way that you're going to move those key metrics forward. You see what I mean? Not being able to do this, not being able to spot the trends, to me is the equivalent of managing your business with a blindfold. You're managing your business blindly. You're just opening the door and seeing what happens. And that's not a way to run a business. So you ignore your customer database or your prospect database. You ignore your analytics at your own peril. Okay? But don't be intimidated by it, because it's just looking at behavior. You're just trying to figure out people's behaviors, that's all. So I want to talk a little bit about a specific application. I'm on the bottom of page 16, and I'm going to talk about best customers. So as I'm talking about this, I'm going to ask some of you folks in the nonprofit world to think about how to translate this terminology, because this is a for-profit marketing presentation, right? But how do you translate this terminology into the nonprofit world, okay? These concepts. So, best customers. Banking. 90% of your customers, or 90% of your profits, make up 10% of your profits. It's unbelievable. And so if you're looking at a graph, you've got 90% of your profits over here with just a sliver of your customers, then the profitability curve declines. It's like a cliff. It just falls and falls until about 60 or 70% of your customers are just marginally profitable. And then the rest are unprofitable. And so this corresponds a little bit to the fully engaged, indifferent, and actively disengaged customers that we talked about earlier. But you've got to develop a best customer strategy. First of all, you've got to define what is a best customer. Who, in the case of business B2C, who is your best customer? In the case of B2B, what? What kind of company? But let me modify that, because I'm B2B, my business is B2B, and I don't necessarily look for particular types of companies. I look for particular types of owners. particular types of owners who have the same mindset about business as me. And it's a little bit more difficult to find those people. But I'm still looking for a B2B. The point is B2B, looking for a particular kind of individual. So very important to first of all figure out who your best customer is. And your database will show you. Because they're right in there. So the next thing is, once you identify them, which puts you above most people, because most people don't know who their best customers are, then you've got to think about, what do I do? What do I do about them? Well, here's what you do, right? You find out about them on 5C, or rather 5D. These are things I'd like to know about my best customers. And then, of course, I want to build a strategy around it. So if you look at Roman numeral at the bottom of 16, Roman numerals 1, and then on the next page through 9, things like, very basics. What income or age ranges or particular locations, educational backgrounds, what products do they purchase from me? And why are these products appealing? And how much of their wallet share do I have? So they do X amount of banking, they do X amount of insurance, they do X amount of healthcare. How much of their wallet share does the community clinic have, for example? How often do they purchase? What prompts their purchases? And when they do buy, how much do they spend? What channels do they primarily use? Do they use the internet? Do they like in person? Do they use multiple channels? So why would it be important? Let's just talk about a few of these. Why would it be important for me to know what channels my best customers use? Pardon me? Advertising? Sure. Advertising for one thing. What else have we talked about? Think touch points.
Quality of the experience on that channel.
Quality of the experience on that channel, exactly. Exactly. And quality can be what? Well, first of all, was it done right? And then what?
Volume.
Was it a hassle? Right? Did I have to, jump through hoops and
Handle it. Well, how much volume can you handle?
How much volume can you handle? Do a simple amount of transactions bring down the web server, for example? Yeah. Why would I want to know why they chose us and and who else they considered?
Helps you to know the market better.
It helps me to know the market better.
And my position in it.
Yeah. Here's a simple example. We have rental houses. And so people come to our rental houses and I say, why'd you choose us? And funny thing is, a lot of them say, well, you're the only one that returned my call. And I'm like, well, that's not a very high hurdle. I can return people's calls. And since I have them text me now, I can do that even better, right? But the next thing is, your properties are clean. Most are not. And so didn't that give me some market intelligence? Told me a little bit about my competitors, right? If I can keep my properties clean and get back to people promptly, chances are I'm going to win. Not too hard. So when you analyze data, I wrote a white paper on analyzing data, right? And I referred to people that analyze data as propeller heads. Well, what I'm saying is don't be afraid. Don't feel like you have to be a technical specialist, with some degree in statistics or whatever in order to analyze data. Because what you're looking at, if you look at a database of 30,000, 18,000, how many do you guys have at Bryan University? How big is your database, do you think? How many records?
I have no idea. We have 5 campuses.
Okay, could be tens of thousands, right? 100,000 could be, right? So you look at these big databases with mass amounts of information, and you say, where am I going to start? This is horrific. It's mind-boggling. I don't know where to begin. Begin with your key metrics, right? So look, best customers, I'm on 6A. We want to do some simple things. Okay? Simple. We want to keep our best customers. Sometimes that means selling more to them. Sometimes that means adding more value to them. We want to get referrals from them.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in our business, I mean, we don't ever want the same customer, really. I mean,
that means that
they move houses.
Yes.
Yeah. Mean, so we're really just focused on referrals and stuff. I mean, it's how do you, or what are your suggestions? I mean, I'm analyzing. I mean, we know what our demographic of customers and stuff like that.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, we don't want to go out to so-and-so's house again. I mean,
because then there was a problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, we really, and that's one thing that sets us apart from other companies. We don't have a service contract. We don't adjust every year because we want it done right the first time. You know, we have a 25-year warranty. People aren't in houses for 25 years anymore, hardly. You know, so how do we? I mean, I know we've been looking for the same type of customer.
Yeah.
It seems a little harder to do that for us because we don't want the actual same customer.
You don't have repeat customers.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, which is.
We actually have. I mean, we have some that have different stages of stuff that they want to do, and definitely we have repeat customers on that. But it's just because there was a bigger plan and they couldn't spend $50,000 all at once.
Sure.
You know, whatever. So. Other than that, I mean, we don't want repeat customers necessarily.
Right. So we're going to talk about this contractor exercise here on the next page or two. But I would say to that, first of all, you want to get very tight. You know who your ideal customer is, right? And you probably know the age of the house, maybe the type of soil. The age of the house doesn't matter. Soil. You might have certain builders who mess up more than others or who aren't so good at creating foundations, which you might know. You know, there might be a lot of variables. There are a lot of variables into determining what's the best type of situation. And you can use, you can still analyze your database by neighborhood in terms of geographies and create your referral network that way, for one thing. And then there are other things like, you've probably thought of this, but what realtors, you probably have networks of contractors and realtors.
We actually just recently, within the past 2 months, have started doing presentations for
realtors,
for engineering firms. And they're like, oh, we didn't know who to even.
Good.
So, I mean, that's been a
quick suggestion. What about a month after you're done with the services, send out a reference letter and tell them that anybody that they send to them, you'll give them $100.
That's actually something I'm working on right now. We do like a gift card, any kind of referrals, they can get like $100 gift card to wherever. I mean, whatever they want.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's Chick-fil-A. But yeah, and that's something we're starting to do
Because
sometime.
by then, they're already satisfied, they know the quality of the work you've done. It's powerful to have them out on the street talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we get customer testimonials all the time. We have so many of them on our website anytime. Nobody sends a bill back in with their check without writing, you guys did so, hardly. They're always like, you guys did such a great job, it was clean. Of course, I have to translate those onto our website for people, but, an actual survey they won't do half the time.
What about video testimonials? Will they do those?
We talked about that. I know that's part of
You got your phone, got your iPads right there.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do.
30 seconds. So you've got your best customers, And then your database is like digging down into the ground, because then you've got another tier of customers who have the potential to be the equivalent of a best customer, but who just aren't yet. They're either not developed enough in terms of what they're ready to buy, or they don't know certain services that you offer. We ran into this in banking all the time. Oh, I never knew you guys offered that service. Well, whose fault is that? Right? Whose fault is that? It's the banks, right? It's not the customers. It's our jobs to make sure our customers know the full breadth of our services. So here's an example of what we did in banking. We thought, there is this group of customers over here, and they're pretty big. They look like they could migrate into our best customer category, but they just don't have a home mortgage with us. So we said, hey, let's do a home mortgage campaign, which we did. We migrated a lot of them into that best customer category. So, that's you're working on different groups of customers at the same time, different strategies, different types of different plan. So on 6C, this is big here, and that is, if you know who your best customers are, and if you know how to get more of them, if you know what your best selling products are, then you have to say, should we realign our entire business around those? In other words, if 25% of our customers are very profitable, and 3 of our 24 products make up 92% of our sales, do we need the other 21 products? And do we need the other 75% of our customers? Are we really geared to serve that market well? And of course, you can mess yourself up that way too, right? Because if the market, that's the 25% that makes up your best customers, if that's not a big enough market for you to build a business on, you want to be real careful, right, before you say, we're done with these other kinds of customers or products. So you've got to be careful as you analyze your customers and your markets, because you can come to some false conclusions. You can say, oh, these are my best customers. I just need to do everything I can to keep them, to sell more of them, to get lookalikes. But what if it's too small of a market? You might come to a false conclusion and cut yourself out of the rest of the marketplace, when in fact what you should have been doing is saying, okay, what can we learn from how well we've done with these customers? And how can we take that and apply that to the rest of our customer base? So when you get into the analytics of this, you've got to learn to kind of look at the results from different angles, kind of like a Rubik's Cube, right? And the first conclusion that you come to might not be the right one. You want to add anything regarding that? Any from any of your experiences?
A lot of mistakes. You just got to learn from them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So go to page 18, and here's an important diagram. At the top of page 18, this is what we've been talking about, differentiating customer value. So on the bottom of the chart is actual customer value. How much value they're bringing to your firm, whatever your key metrics might be. And then on the left-hand side, going up, is the unrealized potential value. So you can see there are 5 different kinds of customers. First of all, you've got your below zeros, who are unprofitable. Then you've got your low maintenance customers, and those are people that almost no matter what you do with them, no matter how you try to move them, it's not going to happen. So the best thing you can do is to keep your costs of service down. The last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money servicing a customer who isn't, speaking from the for-profit world, who doesn't really have much potential value. You're spending money on the wrong customer. And I came across this a long time ago in the private banking world in Dallas. So this private banker had this private banking manager had all these expensive private banking account managers. And many of their clients were in this first bucket here: low maintenance, low opportunity for value, and low value. But they're spending all their time on these customers. Well, we had to realign where those folks spent their money and how these customers were served. Okay? Then you've got your most growable customers. These are folks who aren't giving you a lot of value now, but they've got great potential. And your database can help you with that. It's not going to be perfect, but by profiling your best customers and comparing your most growable, your other customers against them, you're going to be able to kind of see who's got good potential to grow. Then you've got the high value and low potential value. In other words, they've given you everything they've got. They've got all their products with you, all the wallet share with you. They're great customers. They're not going anywhere. These are going to be most of your fully engaged customers that we talked about earlier. The scariest group of customers for me is the one in the top right-hand corner: super growth customers, low to moderate wallet share. And the reason that these are scary to me is that they can be some of your most profitable customers, but from a loyalty standpoint, they're hanging on by a thread. So they might have purchased one product from you. You've got one sale from them. They haven't experienced the full breadth of what you have to offer. They're not well cross-sold. And so they're not necessarily loyal to you. They might be indifferent. They just happen to have made a major purchase. They could switch at any time. And when one of these most profitable customers switches to somebody else, when they go away, it is a bad day for you. It's your worst day. It really is. So it's extremely important, if you're thinking about resource allocation, it's extremely important as you analyze your database to not only isolate who your best customers are, but to also, among that pool of best customers, differentiate between those who've got a lot of product with you, been with you a long time, loyal, not going anywhere, versus those who don't have many purchases, who might be in the beginning of their relationship with you, and who are still volatile. Real world, I found this out. In banking, I found that 50% of our top customers were hanging on by a thread. Nobody even knew it. 90% of our profits, low wallet share, hanging on by a thread. And I'm sure, banking is probably extreme, but I'm sure that happens in many, many businesses. I have no doubt about it. So this is an area of vulnerability. People who look good in the database from a profitability standpoint, but whose hearts are not with you yet. Those are the people who really need to experience your brand promise. So there's one little thing I want to talk about here, and that is, well, two things. Onboarding. So we used to use onboarding. We would figure out who our new customers are, and we created a 6-month program to make sure that they understood the bank, that they knew the ins and outs, all the products, who to call if they had a problem, etc. Because your new customers, that's the point of greatest vulnerability. I don't know why, but the attrition rate of new customers is at least double for those of more long-standing customers. So when you get a new customer, that's extremely important to have a process set up that welcomes them into the relationship and familiarizes them with the key people that, for example, in one of your jobs, right? I might sell the job, but then they have to know that Stephen and Philip are going to come, and this is what they're going to do, and all the details, right?
We actually start on the front end. Customer service rep schedules the appointment.
Okay.
And she actually will send out a packet with who is coming to their house, and then some brochures and stuff, book about different issues. Hopefully the person reads over that and looks at that before the salesperson ever even gets there. So that's where we start that. We do not do this is the crew that's coming out. Generally, we don't do that, but I mean, that's something we've thought about before.
Okay.
This is a crew that's going to be at your house, because people get uncomfortable. I mean, we do have to go inside their houses a lot of times. So, just having people be comfortable with who we are.
So onboarding new customers is something that I want you to think about. They don't know how it works. They might have preconceived ideas of how it's going to work, but your process has never been that way. Your process works, it's just not what they were thinking of. And so if that collides, it can be a bad experience for the customer. Okay? But all this is coming from analyzing your database, right? From knowing what customers are new and etc. I want to just talk to you just briefly about a piece of technology called GIS, Geographic Information Systems. And this was started many years ago in Canada, but it's basically the study of determining who lives where, what are the characteristics, people-wise, building-wise, population-wise, of any given geography. And it can be down to something as small as what's called a block group, or you can analyze a state or regions. And so for some of you, for some of your businesses, I think GIS analysis, Geographic Information Systems, could be very helpful. It could be helpful for a health clinic. It could be helpful for a chiropractic clinic. It could be helpful for what you do. Potentially helpful, Roger, for what you do. For the kind of disaster recovery sort of work that you're involved in. We've done it to sketch out the tornado paths in Joplin and in Oklahoma City, and to find out the exact block groups that have been affected, and to provide, relief efforts accordingly. So it can be very, very useful. So with that, I want to lead into this Providence Exteriors Marketing Enhancement Project. This is a little case study. A real client, name and location has been changed to protect the innocent. Okay? But they're an $8 million company. They have 30 employees. And they put on new windows, siding, and doors. And they're high quality. They're premium quality. So in their marketplace, now they have a database. And they've done some direct mail well. They haven't analyzed their database. They have no idea who their best customers are. They have an inkling of an idea of what their best neighborhoods are, they think that they have a lot of clients from over the years that they've not bought the full package. They haven't done the siding, the doors, and the windows. They've done one or two of the other, but they feel like they've got a lot more potential. And of course, what's an easier sale? Somebody that already does business with you or acquiring a brand new customer? Current customer, right. In your case, you're always getting new customers. But if you can ever figure out products to sell to those customers, it would probably not be a difficult sale.
No, and it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
We may fix the exterior and then go in with it. Encapsulate their crawl space or something.
Okay.
We usually don't do it all at once.
Okay.
So we do have a little bit of that.
Good. So this Providence Exteriors, they're at $8 million. They want to get to 10, and they've got we've got. My point in showing you this is you don't want to get into analytics just blindly. So I've got something built here that's really, really tight. Okay, because you can start throwing money at projects, and you can not get a very high return from it if you're not careful. So exactly what we want to do, we want to add 3 sales per week over the current volume. Notice I said over the current volume. So if they're getting 13, I need to make sure they get 16. And then I track that, okay? So I'm going to use some highly targeted tactics. How am I going to measure it, right? I'm going to compare what we call response rates. So if we're going to market, if I market to 100 people and 10 of them say yes, that's a 10% response rate. I'm going to track response rates. I want to know what they are now versus what they are after we do this intervention. And I want to know the quality of the leads. Because if I get a bunch of leads and they don't convert to sales, what good is that? Yeah, so how many sales per lead? And then I want to look at my cost per lead because I don't want it to be very high. Right? So the value of this, well, the value of it is an annualized $216,000 profit. So what I've done here, and I said scope. Scope is very important. How are we going to do this? How long are we going to do it? What's going to be involved? Because if you start pulling apart your database and analyzing things, believe me, you can go down rabbit trails. Yeah, it can be really bad and you get nothing done. So that's why I put this in here for you to show you a way to develop some real focus. I mean, you may be developing proposals, but even if you develop a project, for your database, I want to determine who my best customers are. Here's what I want to know about them. Here's the value I hope to get. Here's what I know when I'm done, etc. So very, very well defined. Okay? On 20, I've got a project flow. So some of us think better in pictures than we do in words. And so if it helps you design a project, you can use mind mapping software. Anybody familiar with that? I use a tool called Simple Minds. And it really helps me diagram an entire project out. So just a little plug for them. We're not going to have time. We're going to have to move to go into the exercise for Providence Exteriors. But what I want to do with you all now, and then we'll take a brief break. I want you to spend 5 minutes, and I know it's not enough time, on pages 21 and 20. And it goes all the way from what systems does your company use, what are its capabilities, who analyzes data, all the way down to some questions about some of your best customers. So we're not going to have much time to do this particular exercise. Referrals. Okay, let me ask you something quick. How many of you all actually have a referral strategy that you use? There's one. Kinda? Okay. So 70% of business owners say that their business, growing their business, is dependent on referrals. But 90% don't have a strategy. So that's about what just occurred in this room. And it's the same as when I've done this presentation before. Few people have a referral strategy. That's a big, big mistake. I used to think that referrals, I knew they were great. I knew I needed them. But I thought it was just kind of luck. You know, if someone's in the right mood, they might give me a referral. You know, if they met just the right person, they might give me a referral. Well, what I learned to do better. And I learned that there are really two strategies. One is organic and one is systematic. We've been talking a lot, as we talked about brand promise, we've talked a lot about an organic referral strategy, and that just has to do with being a great company. So rather than spend a lot of time on there, I'll let you read what I've written about organic referrals to get your customers and your suppliers and your employees talking about you. That's the general, if you do your brand promise right, you're going to do your company right, and people are going to talk about you. But you've got to educate them. And that's where the systematic comes in. Because you don't, I mean, they're going to talk about you, but what are they going to say? Right? Do they know who your best customer is? I mean, you know, if I'm looking for people that have knee and shoulder injuries that are golfers, and suddenly people start referring workplace injury, you know, cases to me. Well, thanks, but that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, I mean, just as an example. So we need to educate the people that refer to us. So I want to talk about strategic, or rather systematic referrals. And there's I'm on page 24. There's something that I'm helping a client of mine do, and that is on where it says 5B. I'm helping her create a network, a referral network for her marketplace. Okay, so her marketplace is seniors, and probably people 65 years old and older, 70 or older, seniors. And so I've encouraged her to get together with other people who service that market. And that's what she's doing, and she's creating a referral network. So for example, she's working with a banker, an insurance provider, a realtor, and some home contractors. And they're going to form a little referral community and help each other grow their businesses. So, you know, you might think of the same thing for a community center. Think about who else serves your particular market, for example. For legal clients, the kinds of clients, Kim, that you serve, who else is serving that particular market? Well, you understand who you're serving by looking at your database, for example. So this contractor in Providence that I spoke of, most of his clientele happens to be empty nesters who can afford to pay $16,000 for windows, sidings, and door. So who else is serving that marketplace, okay? That's who you build your business with. So we don't have a lot of time to dwell on that, but I just want to tell you it is a really, really important idea. Who else is serving your marketplace, and how can you help them grow their business? There's this book that I've written down here, and it's by Robert Cialdini, and it's called Influence. And he's got a funny story in there. Anybody remember the Hare Krishnas? Remember the religious sect, right? They used to hang out at airports, and they used to sell flowers, right? And what would happen is, I got that wrong. They would give you a flower and then ask for a donation. And so they give you this flower, and what happens is you feel obligated, right? You gave me something, so now I've got to give you something. So then, the funny part of it is that people with the flower that go to the nearest trash can, throw it away. There'd be a Hare Krishna person at the trash can picking it up and reusing it, right? But the point is, when we help people build their business, I mean, it's just naturally human to want to reciprocate. And so building these networks of people that serve your same market, critical, just critical. Systematic referral system at our preschool. So if we can do it at a preschool, you can do it at your business. We tried everything, right? We tried radio, we tried flyers, we tried direct mail, postcards, letters. We tried, there are magazines around our area that cater to families, young families. We tried that, print advertising, tracked it all. Nothing worked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nothing worked. So we're like, okay, we're in this business and we have a good business and people are coming to us because we're a good business, but none of our marketing seems to work. And so a friend of mine who was my coach at the time said, hey, how about a referral strategy? Let's work on a referral strategy. And so I came up with one. So we had 4 classrooms. And what our director did every day, every single day, she would choose one classroom, and as the mom picked up her child, she would stop and speak with the mother and ask how things were going. Genuinely, how's it going? Good, great, very satisfied, etc. Awesome. Hey, we're trying to grow our business. Do you know anybody else who could benefit from the kind of service that your family's getting from us? Yeah, I could probably think of a few. Great. Here's a sheet of paper. Would you mind giving us 3 names? And we went, that was a daily practice. Went through every single classroom, parent by parent. And we grew twice. We had to build our company up almost from scratch because of, during the economic crisis, the state took a bunch of funding away, so we lost 40% of our revenue overnight. Wow. If we hadn't had we were losing $6,000 to $9,000 a month. If we hadn't had a referral strategy in place, we would have gone bankrupt. We had no money for marketing, but the referral saved us. So it's a matter of scripting it out, orchestrating it out, saying, okay, this week we're going to work on the babies, the baby classroom, not the babies themselves, right? The baby classroom. Next week we're going to work on the 2 and 3-year-old classroom. Very personal. And the thing that we did before that was we surveyed our customers because we wanted to know if we were actually delivering on our brand promise. we wanted to know if we were referable. Because if you're not referable, then there's no sense in implementing a systematic referral process with your customers, right? It's ridiculous. So we found out overwhelmingly our customers loved us and they wanted to refer us. So we felt very confident moving this forward. And that's what we did. And that's how it saved our business. So I really want to, so there are two things, the network of people serving your same marketplace, building a simple strategy. Hey, can you give me 3 names? Are you satisfied? Can you give me 3 names? And start with your best customers. Start with your best customers. And in your database, track who your most valuable referrers are. And in a second here, we're going to talk about educating people on how to make referrals. But, Marianne, I just wanted to briefly talk about this contractor in Providence, Rhode Island. And our thought is, okay, let's see, are there neighborhoods where we've done a lot of business? And if so, can we get more referrals from those neighborhoods? So, after I finish a job with your window, siding, and door, can I get you, my customer, who's very happy, first of all, to give me a video testimonial, and would you mind introducing me to your neighbors? In your business, it's not like the next neighbor over has a different kind of soil, right? And it's very likely that you had the same builder. Oftentimes anyway, depending on what kind of subdivision you're in. So people that are close to you should be, you just finished a job, can you introduce me to your neighbor? 18,000 people served in your chiropractic office. You should be getting a lot of referrals, strategic referrals from there. So trigger phrases, how to educate people on how to refer you. So for example, in my business, if you want to do a referral for me, this is what people say, think, or feel that need me. So I want you to think about what it is for your business. My company's growth has been flat for 5 years. I don't know how to get out if I'm successful. I don't know how to go to the next level. I wish I could find better employees, ones who really cared about the business and took pride in their work. My marketing isn't working. I've tried everything. Next page, I'm so busy doing stuff all day, I don't have time to really think about the company's direction. Does that apply to anybody? I feel like we're doing the same things over and over again. We really need some new ideas or products. And of course, my favorite one of all time is, I'm pretty sure I have 3 kids, but I just don't remember their names. If that describes you, you need to see me. Of course, I'd never say that because I only have 2 kids. Andrew's laughing. So seriously, I've hit upon this a couple of times. Keep a database of who refers you and what are the quality of the referrals. Because Laura, you've given us a testimony on how effective that is, right?
It has been.
Yeah, great. So you've got a number of questions on referrals on pages 26 and 27, and I want to just touch on leadership. Because as I've said, it's not something that a lot of people think about when they think of marketing. They think of marketing campaigns. They don't think of leadership. We've talked a lot today about the need to hire great employees, to train them around your brand promise, to hire managers who can institute and convey and reinforce that brand promise daily. Not just as Jordan said, how do we do that? Do it in small bits every day in your team meetings and your interactions with employees. So that's a huge part of leadership. One of the things that I think is really important is hire managers if you can, and you yourself be self-aware. So a lot of times what happens in organizations is I'm not very self-aware, and I tend to think that my way is the right way, my way of doing things is the right way, and maybe even the only way. And so I project that onto my employees without taking into consideration their experiences, their ideas, and their giftedness, which may be far different from mine. So what happens is when I do that, I end up chopping off something that's very valuable to me and which can propel my business forward. Because I've basically said it's my way or the highway. I'm not really interested in what your motivations are or what your giftedness is. I just want you to get it done. Okay? And you may find this challenge when you go back to your office, right? You've kind of given us a little inkling there. So that's not the kind of manager that you want to be. We've got to really broaden our scope as managers and think about, take all that input and just be humble enough to say, look, I've got one way of thinking about this. I've got one way of doing it. But I'm wide open to input and encourage that. So I really wanted to convey that. If you want to read more about really what I think is excellent leadership and how to get the most out of